Hello, I'm Katie and this is Stepmom Space, the judgment-free zone where we talk candidly about the fairy tales and scary tales of stepmom life. So whether you've been a stepmom for years, you're just starting out, or you want to understand the stepmom in your life a bit better, this is the place for you. Thank you so much for all of your lovely messages that I've had in the last week or so. It just means so much to me that this podcast is helping you feel more seen and less alone. Before we start, I want to ask you just to take a moment to pause the podcast, open your app and rate or review wherever you're listening. Stepmom Space is reaching more women than ever, and with your help, we can support even more stepmoms around the world. So if you enjoy the show or you get something useful for it, please do rate or review wherever you're listening. Now, today's conversation is with Clare, a woman who's been living with high conflict co-parenting for over a decade, including the kind of situations that leave you constantly scanning for danger, wondering what will happen next. Clare went all in on treating the kids as her own, and in this chat she shares how even when you do genuinely love the kids, you can still feel totally on edge in the family system. Because sometimes it's not the children that drain you, it's the other adult dynamics around them, the messages, the accusations, the feeling that anything you do is going to be twisted later. I know lots of you will relate to this, so let's get into the episode. Evening, Clare.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Really good, thank you.
Good. Have you had a good day?
I'd like kind of. It's been a bit of a stressful day, to be honest, at work. A lot of emergency work, but it's taken all day. But I'm glad I'm home.
Yeah. And now you get to talk to me.
Yes, exactly. I'm offloading.
Good. Well, that's the joy, isn't it? Everyone understands how you feel, and you can offload whilst also knowing that you're doing a good deed for the stepmoms of the world. Yes. So look, when you got in touch with me, I listened to your voice note and it blew my mind a bit because you're dealing with quite a lot. So do you want to tell us just a little bit about how you met your partner and what your step world looks like?
So I met my husband actually online in 2014. Talked a couple of weeks beforehand, and I actually asked him out on a date, which was like not like me at all.
Love that.
So, yeah. So it's like me kind of stepping out of my comfort zone, trying to kind of like, right, you've fallen for the wrong kind of guys. Let's just do a little bit different and see how it goes. And we just got on really well chatting. And I just thought, hell, whatever. And girls at work were like, go for it, Claire. And I was like, yeah, okay. And it was literally, you want to come for a drink? Brilliant. And then we met up literally like a day later after work in the local town. And it was that literally is it. Like we met, had the greatest first date. We were just really, it was really refreshing because it was really open on both sides. And he literally quite early on was like, told me his situation. He has 4 kids. He had an ex-wife. So he's got 2 boys with his ex-wife. And then he's got 2 young girls with his ex-girlfriend. So with his ex-wife, he's got 2 boys and they would have been 8 and 5 at the time. And then the 2 girls, they were 18 months and 6 months. So really little.
That's a lot for you.
Yeah, I must have blocked it. But I was like, yeah, people my age, you're going to have kids, And I've always loved children. I've always wanted children of my own. I worked as a healthcare assistant and did lots of nannying. It was kind of my thing. I was like, I love kids. Doesn't matter. Like, it was fine. It's not a worry at all. And it was like, I think I must have not really thought about, yeah, he's got kids, but I'm not dating them, I'm dating you. But I think the more and more obviously we got to know each other, the more dates and stuff like that, it was obviously more apparent. And you always have like your friends and stuff. He's got a lot of kids. It's not really bothered me. We did talk about when we would introduce me to them. And I was very much like, oh no, let's not meet them yet. Maybe 6 months in, and then we'll go on like day dates and stuff with the kids and do something nice. Don't want to force it because they're really young. And I kind of wanted to make sure that this was a relationship that I was going to stick by. Yeah. So that's how we met. And it was refreshing. But we both on the get-go First date, he said, I want to marry you. Literally the first date. So
Oh,
it was lovely. I was like, oh.
it's so funny because my husband told me he loved me on our third date. And I remember being like, no, you don't. You're just like,
Yeah. You're just saying it.
you're just having some moment of infatuation. It was a starry night,
Yeah,
we'd had
yeah.
a glass of wine. It was romantic by the water. But I remember thinking in my head, like, oh my God, like this is what it's meant to feel like.
Yeah.
And having just those feelings when you're I've got a friend of mine who she's been married over 20 years, and she says to me, my heart still does flip-flops when my husband walks in the room. And I used to think, yeah, right. And now I'm like, oh my God, like I totally get it. So I can imagine on that night your husband say, or your then date saying,
Yeah.
I'm gonna marry you, and you being kind of like, oh yay, but also oh.
I mean, yeah, I've had bad relationships, and it was kind of in the back of my, like, oh, you just say, but oh, it's made me feel really good kind of situation. And it's like, honest to God, it was literally felt like a bit of a fairy tale. We were 34, and I was like, oh, I finally found the guy I was supposed to be with. I think, I am a bit of a bit of a like, it will happen for a reason. It will happen in the right time. I even say to my stepkids, like, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Like, things happen. Like, you don't always get what you want, but it will make you think about it to get to the right direction you need to be. So don't be, have your moment, be sad and whatever if you don't have what you have, but things happen for a reason. And I
Yeah.
truly believe that. And that's difficult to kind of like drill it into the children, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everything at the moment is like really instant, and everything's on the phone, and I want this. And yeah, it's difficult.
You mentioned that the boys were 8 and 5 and the girls were 18 months and 6 months.
Yeah.
So had your partner been quite recently separated?
So yeah, it had been about a year at the time, and he was like, been separated for about a year and a bit. As you can imagine, that wasn't the greatest of relationships, which has obviously led to how everything is at the moment. As my situation at the moment is not great with his ex.
Okay, just so I'm making sure I'm understanding, the ex-wife with the two boys, the relationship with her is okay?
Great, brilliant. Met the boys on fireworks night in 2014. They wanted to meet me, and I was like, yeah, absolutely fine. And so we did that. And then it gradually, like, we saw them more. So I went and met up with the ex-wife. Absolutely lovely. She literally got remarried that same year. She'd had experience with my husband's ex, so knew the situation, didn't want to be in with the kids' father's other half. And we just spoke. We chatted, and she got to know me, got to know her, and that's how it should be. And we just had the same mentality about how to bring up the kids all together, and we communicated really well, like any concerns. And sometimes the kids would try and play us off each other's, but we were very good and comfortable and respectful of each other to say, really, if something went wrong, we would talk to each other. I said, really, that wasn't my intention. For, if I made you feel bad or whatever, really apologise, and vice versa. And she's lovely. She'll always say, like, thank you very much for being in my boys' lives. Really a massive asset, and they love you for it. And I truly believe that they're where they are because of my involvement as well, which is lovely. You don't do it for that. I just, like, you want to try and guide them in the right place, and they're doing great.
It sounds, and I'm sure we're going to come on to it, but it sounds like ex-girlfriend with the two young girls, the relationship was a bit more fractious, and perhaps ex-wife with the older kids was maybe relieved that there was somebody else and could therefore kind of work out, right, how are we going to do this from the beginning so it works well for us?
Absolutely. And I think that's learned from, mistakes were made before, and wanted to do it the right way this time. There isn't a set thing, there isn't a wrong or right way. It's just making sure you talk and you are on as much on the same page as possible. At the end of the day, I'm only an asset to help them do the bringing up of the kids. And my husband's very much like, no, you are, when the kids are with us, they're your kids. I'm like, yeah, they are, but they're not. I don't want to get, some people get upset about that, call it that you can't call them your kids, they're your stepchildren. I'm like, well, yeah, they are, but they know that. But it's easier sometimes to say they're my kids because they
Yeah.
are.
I have a lot of conversations with women in our coaching sessions around labels and names and what you call people. And
Yeah.
I think it's really difficult because you're always in so many situations going to get, how many kids have you got? And I always felt really conscious that when I was with like my biological kids and my stepdaughter, people say to me, oh, do your children want to do this? You just kind of want to go with it because you don't want to make anyone feel less than or different.
Yeah, exactly. There were a couple of occasions when it would be me and my stepdaughters out and about. And some people have come up and said, oh, they're really polite and they're really well behaved, because they were and are. And it goes, oh, your daughters are, are lovely. But it's just easy to say, oh, no, they must. It kind of like, I don't want to make them feel awkward that they've made the assumption that they're my children. But I also like, I should have said that. And I was like, and one of the oldest stepdaughter did say one time, oh, why did you? I'm like, sometimes you know that you're my stepdaughter and it's fine. I said, but sometimes it's easier just to go on because they don't need to know the ins and outs of our family. And he goes, as long as we know, that's fine, isn't it? And then she was like, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So I don't want to explain, but there is a kind of fine line about it. And I know some people, when I've spoken about it, when they've got no experience of being a stepmom or in that situation, they do get quite offended by it. And I said, oh, I don't know how I'd feel about that someone else was calling my children their children. And I'm like, okay.
It's all contextual, isn't it? Like I've definitely had the same with my stepdaughter because physically she looks very like me and my biological daughter.
Right.
And if people ever say like, oh, your daughters, I would never say, oh, well, actually, that one's mine and that one's not. Like,
yeah.
It's just rude, isn't it?
Then it's like, it'd make that your stepdaughter feel a bit left out. Or, yeah, it is a massive fine line. But, as long as everyone in the need to know, it's absolutely fine.
And sometimes I remember when my stepdaughter was really little, a similar thing like that happened. And I said to her afterwards, oh, I know. I was so like, when I look back now, I was so worried about saying anything that might upset her mum or might make her feel uncomfortable. I remember like making this whole thing about, I do know I'm not your mum, but I just said that in the moment. And bless her, she was only little. And she said, oh, I like it when people think you're my mum. It's like,
I have had that. And again, I still to this day now, like if I'm with the girls, I have to think about what I'm saying because it's been horrible in respects of like it will be, and it's always been like that for 11 years. They'll come over, they'll stay with us for whatever a lot of time we've got, and then go back. And it is literally like the Spanish Inquisition that she will literally grill the girls what they did, how, where'd you go, where did you buy that, la 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 la, and all this kind of stuff. And if the girls said something, she would then turn it around, and then literally within half an hour of the girls being home, my husband will get messages or phone calls like, how dare she, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, God. And I can remember distinctly, it was really bizarre. The first ever time, really, I've met the girls properly, she was like, oh, my mum doesn't like you like this. I'm like, okay, go. But she goes, but she will. No, because that was her opinion of me, like she liked me, and she goes, well, if I like her, mum then should like her, kind of thing. I'm like, oh, that's really good. It's nice to have heard that at that time, because actually the first time I ever met the girls was forced on me at the time. So we met in the August, started dating, and then we're back and forth spending time together at each other's houses. And then she was somehow knew that I would be staying around his house, which was literally 2 minutes around the corner from the house. And it was like that so that he could be close by to the girls. And every time I was around, she would say, you need to be back, you need to come around, because the oldest stepdaughter, she can't get to sleep and she's unsettled. So he would have to go around and do all that. But it was nothing like that. It was November time, because we were going to go away for Remembrance in London. Woke a Saturday, knock on the door. My husband goes down, come back up. He goes, oh, it's my ex. She wants to speak to us. And she had the girls with them. I was like, right, okay. Put whatever I can on, pajamas and whatever, went down into the kitchen. And she was there. The eldest one was in like a onesie with a toy. And then the youngest one was in her car seat. And there she was standing with...
So at the moment, because obviously this is audio only, I'm like sitting here looking through my fingers like, oh my God, this story, what is going to happen? Claire's got her hands on her hips doing this impression of territorial bio mum with a car seat in one hand. And all I can think is like, these poor little girls, what is about to happen?
So all she wanted to do was try and make me see sense. You know what I mean? Did you know he owes me money? Did you know he's been doing this and la 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 la, and he cheated on me and he was been with these people and all this? I'm like, whoa. I said, I know he owes you money because you went on holiday and that was the agreement that you would pay for it and he was paying you back. I knew that he'd be dating someone because he's not in a relationship with you. Of course, he's seen other people before me and I know about them. And it just came on and it just went on. And I'd stood up, so I wasn't sitting down. So I'm like, I'm not sitting down. I'm not having this person like trying to be dominant and, you know, all this kind of stuff.
Yes, Claire.
I know. So I was like really calm, and then my husband was sitting there looking at me, and I'm like, I know all of this. We're very open. We knew about it, and she generally looked really shocked at the time that I actually did know about a lot of the stuff that she was bringing up. So it wasn't to her advantage. She didn't have that control. Bearing in mind the children are still on the floor, sat next to her, and she's shouting. She's doing this all in front of them, right? And then got to the point where she started asking me, I can't remember what the questions were and whatever. And then she wouldn't let me answer. And then my husband kind of stepped in. She was like saying, oh, shut your face and stuff like that. Do you not know who I am? And I'm like, I don't care who you are in profession wise, because it's got nothing to do with that. It's about you being a mum and him being a dad to the girls. And she lost it. She goes, if you don't get out of my effing way, I'm going to punch you and stuff like this. And this is when my husband was like, right, get out now. She went to the front door, opened it and gestured to her to like, you need to leave right now. All he did was I stood outside the kitchen. She was right in front of me. The girls were still on the floor, standing behind her. My husband opened the door and he then went to her and gestured like hand out and kind of like touched to like kind of like, this is, you need to move. She was like throwing her hands around like this, pushing him. He literally had to move her to the door and she was punching him. This is in front of the kids. And then obviously the kids are crying and I'm stood there and I'm thinking, it's okay, let's come in here, la, la, la. And then it ended up going outside but she'd fallen back and she'd hit her head on the floor. She got up and then obviously launched herself again at my husband. And my husband's actually an ex-police officer. So he pinned her with her arm against this and all she was doing like, go on, I dare you, go on, hit me, hit me, hit me. And that was when, right, okay. He stepped away, he went upstairs, she came coming in and she goes like, you're making a really mistake, blah, I'm going to call the police. And I, at this point, I'm still really calm. I haven't lost it. And I was helping the girls put their boots on. She goes, don't you dare touch my children. Pick them up. And they were obviously still crying. Walked out and said, you know, he'll cheat on you too. And Ollie goes, well, that's my prerogative and that's me to experience if that ever happens. And she's on the phone to the police. We heard her pick up and that was reported. So that was the first time I met the girls.
Bloody hell, I think you win. I think you win the most hideous introduction to the ex and your stepkids that I've heard. If anyone's got a more dramatic one, let me know. But oh God, I don't know where to start with that. You mentioned, she said, oh, don't you know who I am? So, and you said, oh, not, it doesn't matter who you are professionally. So who is she professionally?
So she is actually a family solicitor. She deals with this on a daily basis. She deals with divorces, child separation, you know, all that kind of child protection, all that kind of, this is what she does on a day-to-day basis.
Wow. I didn't see that one coming. Okay, because I'm trying to wrap my head around this, because I like to try and see things from everyone's point of view. So she's got these two really young girls who were like 18 months and 6 months when you guys got together.
Yeah.
So like that's two kids really on the bounce, which is hard. Mm-hmm. And they split up when she was pregnant.
Of her choice.
I'm not excusing it, but like postnatal depression.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. It's something that we discussed with me and my husband. I'm like, she's not right. But the thing is, though, even if you kind of suggested it in a nice way to say, like, to have some support or anything, like, even now suggesting anything, she would go off on one. Absolutely. I did have that. We did have a discussion. I said, we think that she is suffering from that or something else. And it's not to say it's not her fault, but when you've gone through it for such a long time, it's kind of like.
You can have one or two situations because of, I don't know, like your hormones or your mental health or whatever's going on. But to repeatedly demonstrate those same behaviours, you can't. You can't. I feel for those kids so much. And
Yeah.
I was surprised, given what the interaction had been when you first met them, that you just said she left your husband. Let's be honest, whatever your situation, being a stepmom is a lot. Especially when the parts you find hardest are the ones no one ever talks about. The resentment, the guilt, the blurred boundaries, the emotional overload, the worry about the ex, the tension with your partner, and that constant, exhausting feeling that so much of your life is out of your control. The Stepmom Reset is the workshop I created to actually support you with that. The real stuff, not the surface level advice people love to give you. It's practical, it's grounded, and it helps you get clear on what's yours to hold and what absolutely isn't. You walk away feeling steadier, better equipped, and far less at the mercy of everyone else's needs. So if you're thinking about how you want to show up for yourself in 2026 with more clarity, more confidence, and far less self-doubt, this is where that starts. Numbers are limited to keep the group small and supportive, and I'm only running this workshop once in January, so don't miss out. You can join the Stepmom Reset and find lots of other support too at stepmomspace.com.
She was the one that wanted to end the relationship. She didn't allow my husband in the delivery room for the younger child. She completely didn't want, and he wanted to be involved. Like, she was like very much accusing him of cheating and stuff like that. So he was like, okay, well, whatever, I'll go. Which is why he kind of lived close by, because that's the only time, like, he wanted to be involved. He didn't just leave it. She made it very difficult. And if it's not how she wanted or accommodating her, if he had something on, she would then massively kick off. Like, why are you at my beck and call? But I think that's what the issue is with me, because he met me, that he wasn't there at her beck and call. But the thing is, she used the kids against him. Like, if you don't do this, you're not going to see the kids all the time. Not long after that, there was another incident again. My husband went to go and watch the eldest daughter do a bit of swimming. Before we were going to go away, said goodbye and went, drove back. But she was chasing him in the car on the way back. So he stopped off. He goes, oh, why? He goes, oh, so your eldest wants to say bye. Because I already did that. But there's no need for you to speed and be up my back end with the kids in the car. He opened the back, undid the buckle, and went to go and give one of them a cuddle. She then tried to drive off. He managed to then put the seatbelt back on, close the door, and then get in his car. She got the youngest and plonked her on the bonnet of his car to stop him from driving away. He managed to get away and drove back to where I was. I was at his house getting ready. He came in, he goes, you never know, guess what happened. And whilst he was telling me this, she rucked up the front, dropped the kids off at the doorstep, and drove off.
Oh my God.
So we had to go downstairs, obviously get the girls, sort them out. They were drenched, they'd snot coming down their face. And she had the audacity to call him and said, you need to drop the girls at my dad's. And he was like, what?
Okay, so oh God, what is wrong with these people? I'm like, you're like wrecking your own children. What the fuck? So these children, I mean, I can't imagine how terrified, confused, they are. And I guess having a baby, it's difficult. But what was the contact agreement, if at all there was one that she
There
ever
was no court. There's no court order. There still isn't court ordered. It's not like that. Even if you mentioned it, or she's very much threats it all the time. But when we said, okay, then go ahead, we'll go to court, it will never happen. She would always then, oh, we need some mediation. And then it was like drop. But then when we decide that we need mediation, she goes, I'm not going to mediation. There's no need for it. So with the family courts to even get in there, they would prefer, obviously, go mediation first, and then you do your C100 forms and stuff like that. So we've looked into it all. At the time before I arrived, I think it was as and when. And then when I got involved, she stopped him from seeing the kids after these a few encounters. It used to be on a Sunday, and then no contact whatsoever. And it was about a year. She stopped him from doing that.
So for a year, he didn't get to see his kids?
Yeah. She would call him and promise him that he could all these time, and then say, no, you can't, and kind of take that away. And then she started letting him see him on a Sundays, but I wasn't allowed to be involved. So yes, he'd go off and go and see the girls, have his day, no overnights and stuff. It was just a Sunday, but it had to be where she lived. I mean, he couldn't bring them back where we lived. And then after we got married in 2016, it was about a month afterwards, she then decided all of a sudden I was allowed to be involved, and it had to be every other weekend. I'm allowing you, I'm letting you. That's the kind of language she uses. But Claire's not allowed to be alone with them.
So the girls are 2 and 4 at this point. Miraculously, she decides you're allowed to see them every other weekend. I'm confused though, and this is no like slight on your husband, because I see the pressure that guys are under, but what has stopped him during those 2 years of trying to get contact when she was preventing it?
Oh, he tried to, as I said, she would say, oh, you can.
Yeah.
And he very much like, want to go, we'll do this, I'll meet here, we'll do that. Very accommodating. But then she'd just snap it like, no, we can't do it. It's not convenient for her.
And because she wouldn't do mediation, he couldn't go to court. Is that right?
Yeah. And plus, we really couldn't afford it at the time.
Yeah.
It was just one of the things. He was really in a bad place mentally, but he tried not to show it a lot of the time. And there was a point where he got to the point where he was deciding, like, I'm going to relinquish my fatherly responsibilities. Like, I'm just going to let her just go and just completely detach myself because it's that bad. Bearing in mind, this man had to ordeal, like, the relationship they had without the girls was actually quite an abusive one from her point of view towards him, very financially, mentally, emotionally abusive. And how these girls come about, you wouldn't say was consensual to a point. She was very much, this is what she wanted. And he was just someone that she could have kids with. He never used to be allowed out, wasn't allowed to go for a drink. And to still be in contact with her, he still struggles with that because of the past relationship he had. And she is quite manipulative. You could probably say very narcissistic traits, because, you know, when you read stuff of that, you're like, oh God, that is what she does. And we read a lot of like how to kind of manage a lot of what she says, because she will use the girls against him every single time. You're not making the effort, and the girls know that. And they keep saying that, oh, well, Dad's not making the effort. Even if it's just like going to pick them up somewhere, I'm like, well, it's 20 minutes to you and then 20 minutes back. If you're already coming this way, why can't you just drop the girls off? I take them here, there and everywhere all the time anyway. We can't co-parent with her.
When you've got somebody who is so prepared to use their children in that way, even if you had 50-50, it's someone who has a significant amount of time with your child. There's no point in fighting it, but it's so painful to watch a child saying something that you know isn't their words. It's just something that they feel they should say because they know that's what their mum wants them to say.
It's really difficult. And, you know, sometimes you hear it and it's like, but you can see it on their face that they don't mean it, but it's something that's learned. Sometimes it does take you back, and it's difficult sometimes not to react to that vocabulary that they use, knowing that it's not them. You know, as they get older, they are going to have that vocabulary because it's like they turn into teenagers and they say hurtful things and stuff. So we find it difficult sometimes to differentiate what is actually being said now, as they're older, if it's their mum saying it or if it is actually them. And I think it's mainly because their whole reality is so distorted by what's been going on and what they believe and what actually has happened or hasn't happened and what's been fed to kind of fill in the gaps that they'd have. Do you know what I mean?
And also there's that whole thing about you guys, and I see it a lot, the dad and the stepmom really are a safe space, but the child has not been, let's say, encouraged to think that. What you end up with is a very, very confused child whose sense of reality is distorted because they're like, but my mum says that, my mum says that. And we know that children are biologically wired to have that for the most part with their mum. So you're going to end up just creating somebody who doesn't really know what's right. And I really, really, really struggle, especially when you see, and I know it shouldn't make a difference, but, you know, this is somebody who's an educated, articulate woman who, quite frankly, should know better.
Yeah, you say well educated and someone going through the whole education and putting a lot of work in. At the moment, her attitude to her kids' education is really poor. Attendance is bad because she can't be bothered to take them. If my husband doesn't pick them up, you're guaranteed that the girls aren't going to go to school or catch a bus to school because she can't be bothered.
When you say that, actually, I thought, yeah, I should check myself because it's an easy assumption to make that just because somebody is book educated on paper that I remember actually my mum saying to me, I was talking about something and saying, I just can't really believe it because the person in question is quite well educated. And my mum was like, no, don't make that mistake. Don't think that just because somebody's well educated, got a good job, that they actually either understand human behavior or the right way to parent, the right way to co-parent, or even worse, they know the right way. They're just choosing not to do it. That's like the worst of the worst, right?
I think it's a bit of both. I think they grasp on reality and how other people, the majority of people, it's just not there. Like their social skills and their just common sense and just very well educated, but just in life, just having a grasp on human interaction, what they say, how they come across is really bizarre. It's quite funny though, because there are experiences where she is blatantly like, this is true, this is how I feel, this is what's happened. And then you'll talk like weeks and it'll be flipped and she will be doing what you suggested. But it was her idea. Kind of situation.
That's really, really, really hard to keep up with. My ex-husband over the years has had certain like rules about things. And once I get used to like, okay, so now he wants to operate around these rules, so we'll do that. And then suddenly like the rules change and I'll be like, but hang on, but you said that, you know, we could only do swaps in school holidays, but now you want to swap in, but what? And he's like, oh, no, that was from before. And I'm like, I can't keep up.
That's the thing. And we've had to really, really, really adapt throughout the years to be super, super flexible. It's no bother for us. Whatever the girls need, she doesn't work in an office. She works at home. She's very flexible. And if she does need to go into court and whatever, that's what she does. With me and my husband, we've got office jobs. We're as flexible as we can be in terms of changing the dates and stuff like that. But she'll make up, well, you're very easy to change it. Don't you want to see the kids? I'm like, no, that's not the case at all. You're asking us to change it. And we're very accommodating that we're not making it difficult to change that agreement or an arrangement. She'll cry for help and say, I'm really struggling. And my husband's like, yeah, fine, we'll have them. But in the next hours or days later, she'll change it. Oh, no, they don't want to do it now. Stop blaming it on the children. You ask for help because you're tired or you're not feeling great or just need a bit of time away from the children. Absolutely acceptable. We're here to help. But because we've been that accommodating, she hates it. It's taken years, to be honest. We literally don't engage in her at all, unless it is literally about the kids.
Because I was going to say, 11 years of this, you seem to have it pretty well together, but I can't imagine it's been easy.
I do now. It got really bad about 3 years ago, to the point where me and my husband did split up. There were other factors, but she was actually one of the main ones. She was just constantly on us and me and blaming me for everything. It was just getting in my head. But because I didn't want to have or couldn't have contact with, she just wouldn't engage me. It'd have to go through my husband. It's annoying to, like, when someone has a go at you or calling you bad names, you instantly want to, like, I want to defend myself, but I want to do it to you, but I couldn't. So I'd have to go through my husband. And then he was going, no, stop, just stop letting I get to you. And I was like, it's not that easy. I'm being told I'm being blamed for this. And the girl said this about me, or I'm not allowed to do this, how, all this kind of stuff. And it gets really draining.
What sort of stuff would she say?
Just like the girl said that I stopped them from doing things, or they didn't like me telling them off, or it was a stupid thing. But, it gets to a point where
it's not stupid.
I'm just sick and tired of it. Like, just leave me alone. Surely me loving your girls is a massive bonus. I could be terrible and horrible to your kids, but I'm not. I did try to reach out to her, and I did explain I wasn't allowed to help with homework. That's my husband's job. I'm like, but sometimes when the girls are with us, they have homework and my husband still has to work and I'm there to support. Of course I'm going to help with homework. Of course I'm going to write in the book to say they've read their book, they've done this, they've done that. They did really, really well. She hated it. And it was like, she's not allowed to do this. If she does that, they go, you're not going to see the girls, or I'm going to take you to court. Oh, it's so tiring.
What are you going to do? Like, get an injunction against the reading diary, or?
I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, we split. And we still chatted and we were trying to build back our relationship. But I didn't push myself on the children, and I left it to them if they wanted to. And I always said, you can always message me, call me whenever, but I'm not going to force you in it. And it got to the point where this was not, coming into months when we first split, that she wasn't expressing to my husband that the girls are now saying that they miss me a lot. And they were getting really upset. And she could see actually my involvement with the girls being stability from our side was actually a good thing, because they weren't being stable at the moment. So she allowed them then to start messaging me, and us, doing that. And we would FaceTime, and I would meet up with them. If my husband was working, it was his time to have the kids. I would offer to be with them whilst he was working. He was seeing someone else at this time as well. They didn't want to spend time with that other person. So I used to offer, when he was working, I went to see the girls. But if he wasn't working, it was his time, then I wouldn't be encroaching on that at all whatsoever. That's his time. More and more we were meeting up, and she was really like, Claire's their only stable person in life. It's only me and her that they were the parents. And I'm like, is she all right? Because for the past however many years, I've been the bad person and I'm not good for the girls. But now, because the girls really have expressed how they felt and missed and stuff like that, she was now still grating my husband and telling me he's like a deadbeat dad. How dare you, you're no good for nothing. But Claire and me are the only parents that they've got in their lives. And, so grateful that she can, still be in their lives, and saying that Claire was the best thing that's ever happened to you. And I'm like, what is this? This is complete 180. And I'm like, I felt really unnerved about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And she even started texting him and saying, oh, really thought about if anything happened to me. I've spoken to the girls and they've really expressed that if anything happened to me, they wanted Claire to be their guardian and look after them as well as you. And so I'm thinking of changing my will. What?
So like, you go from you're not allowed to write in the reading diary to I'm going to rewrite my will and give you my kids.
I don't need your permission, she was saying to him, but I just wanted to put it to you, and I will speak to her myself. And I'm like, my God, this is really bizarre.
You must really love those girls.
Oh yeah, well, they're 18 months and 6 months, and then you build they're great personality, great kids. They have their moments, and all kids do. And we did have a really good bond. I'm hoping we still do. I haven't seen them for a long time, and that was my choice due to certain situations that happened recently, but I've had to.
So I just want to go back. So you've gone from you're not allowed to write in the reading diary, you're not allowed to be unsupervised with the children, to potentially, if something awful happened to her, she wants you to look after her children. And a lot of people will be listening thinking, my God, if I was you, when me and my husband split up, I would have run for the fucking hills, not hung out with the ex. What compelled you to have this generosity within you that I think if we're honest, a lot of us wouldn't have done that. We would have gone into self-preservation and see ya mode.
Don't get me wrong, it was a really big reflection time for me, big reflection time on me and my husband's relationship. There were certain other aspects in there that I won't go into, but all the other stuff. It just comes to realization, it's like, you can fix it if we talk to it. It was bad communication between us, lack of intimacy just due to feeling crap and just having someone else just all that kind of stuff. And the time apart was a really good lesson and build up. And we just fell back in love with each other. And it kind of happened exactly the same of how we first met. Same length of time we dated again to when we moved back in together. It's exactly the same time of how it was when we first met. But in between that time, I did a lot of work on myself because I wanted to. And yes, lots of people would have just gone, see ya, bye-bye, not going to deal with the crap anymore. But because I really did love him, and I really thought that this is something I've always said to him, jokingly, it's like, we're never getting divorced, by the way. Just because that was my experience. My parents are still together. They've been married 40-something years. With the kids, again, it's not their fault. It's got nothing to do with them. It was never their fault. I would feel if I was a child and I had people in my life or a person in my life that I've had a really good bond with, and all of a sudden, because something happened elsewhere, I've been punished for it and I can't see that person. So that's why I kind of like stayed around and made it their decision whether they wanted to speak with me or meet up with me, never forced them. And I always made that very clear. And obviously, if me and my husband didn't get back together, they still had the option of seeing me. I wasn't going to stop them from doing it. Again, I did exactly the same with the boys. Obviously, they were a lot older, but we all had like dates, went to the cinema. And I did it with the girls. We'd take them out, we'd have a day date, we'd go and I'll take them to the cinema and stuff like that, and then drop them back at his house at the time. Going back to her about the whole, like now doing the whole 180 thing, apparently from the text message that I'd seen from my husband that she'd sent him, the reason why she then decided that she didn't hate me was because I was on the same side as she was, as in I'd been cheated on like she'd been cheated on. I'm like, no, that's not the case at all. That's just not it. So she felt that we had something in common in that aspect. It was really bizarre. I went to see the girls because they ride horses and stuff. They were doing a little competition and she was there with her partner. Bearing in mind that all this time she had partners, had long-term, like it's not like she was single the whole time. She's had long-term relationships.
What on earth were they like?
They were lovely. But they've been fed a lot of stuff, which we know because we're actually good friends with one of them who had his own kids. He had 2 boys at the time. And she did the whole like, yeah, this is going to be happy families. The boys can stay here when you have the kids and we do all this. And then slowly but surely, she was kind of experienced being the stepmom from his ex-wife, who was just as horrible as she was. And it only lasted about, I'd say, 4 or 5 years on that relationship.
You then obviously decided to reconcile with your husband.
Yeah.
And moved back in together.
Yeah.
At that point, you had been seeing the girls alone by yourself. The ex was very supportive of you. So in my dream, like, happy world, that would have been the moment where she's like, okay, you're back together, but you're an amazing person.
Oh, yeah. She came on an event, like she literally came up to me to apologise. You can tell it was just one of them, I've definitely been a bitch to you for however many years. So I'm going to put the tears on because, it's emotional for me, not for you. But I want that. I'm apologising. It wasn't sincere. She came out and she started crying. She goes, I'm really sorry, blah, 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 and hugged me. And I was like, oh my God, get away from me. But like, okay. And stupidly, I was one of them. I was like, oh, it's okay. Because I was like really shocked at the fact that she's apologising to me after all these years, that she admit that she was being a bitch. And she was saying, it was because I was jealous of you because you were playing happy families and that's what I wanted. I'm like, we're not playing happy families. We were just happy. You could have that too if you weren't so miserable.
I've got empathy for someone who's like, oh, they're in a really happy relationship and a happy family and I'm not. Like, that's not nice.
No.
But you've got to recognize that. And then you don't punish the other people. And you especially don't punish your own kids. Where are you now in terms of both your marriage and your relationship with your stepdaughters?
Marriage is really good, better than it's ever been, you know, really strong after the experience that we've had and having lots of conversations about. A lot of the times it's like, you know, we do struggle sometimes with mental health and things like that. And it was difficult, especially with my husband, having to express that. It's kind of like he's the man, he shouldn't really show like this week. It's not about weeks. And he knows that. And it's still to this day, you know, he struggles. And so do I. And we're very open about it now. Whereas before it's like I didn't really want to upset him that either I was struggling and it would then kind of dictate his mood. And I didn't want that. But now we're really open, but we know that it doesn't have to affect us. I'm just expressing, I don't need you to fix it. And that's very much what I'll say. I said, I don't need you to fix this. I just need to vent. Or I will say, I just need advice or something like that of those lines. But it's very much like that. With the kids, when we got back together at the beginning was great because of the relationship with the girl's mum was great. She would message me. She would ask me advice about the girls when they're with her about certain behaviours. And I would just say, it's absolutely fine, but I understand where you're coming from, but just let them be. But it was very much like she's just doing it for effect because she would just go against whatever I had said. I'm like, well, I don't understand why you're asking me then if you're still not, you know, okay with this. That came and continued okay. And then it started to creep in where she started not really giving a crap anymore. The fact that our relationship was on a good level, she would start playing her games again. So when we had the kids, you will pick them up at 10 and then you will bring them back at 8 on this particular day. Okay, fine, that's okay. But then she would text at 7 o'clock to say, I'm not going to be out, I'm going to the cinema. I'm like, hold on a minute. You said drop them off at 8. I've made plans with my family or whatever. That's what she would start doing again. So then I was like saying to my husband, I'm not playing these games again because that's not helpful or healthy for the girls. They got really upset when their mum was saying this because they were scared that no one was going to be home when I dropped them off. I said, I'm not going to drop you off when no one's at home. That's absolutely fine. To the point where the youngest daughter was crying because she was upset about what her mum was saying. At this point, she was texting all of this via the girls, not direct to me or the husband. She was doing it via the girls. Tell your dad, tell Claire, this and this. And then it started getting really bad after that.
Post everything being great as soon as you got back together, then obviously tricky, challenging, very challenging. Where are you now with your relationship with the girls?
Don't have one at the minute. It was sometime last year something had happened. I was blamed for it. I was accused of domestic abuse against the girls when none of that happened. They were with us. It was like every other weekend situation back again, or sometimes a little bit longer. Something had happened. One of the girls basically having an argument with my husband, teenage stuff, and something had happened. And they just blamed either me or my husband at the time for pushing them down the stairs, when in fact she slipped because no one was near. I was at the bottom. My husband was in the other room. Anyway, obviously went back, told the mum. She's then obviously, that's it. I've got social service. My social service said that I'm not, they're not coming. They'd started then messaging us again. So we knew that mum and allowing them to start talking to us. So then it started going back. And then the story reared its ugly head again. One of the girls expressed something like this to a teacher, apparently, and said I'd pushed them down the stairs. Then they'd obviously then got counsellors involved. And yeah, haven't seen them since April. I kind of decided that they were viewing things that I posted on social media and twisting it. Well, she was. So I literally deleted them off on my Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, whatever social media I had. At first, I blocked them from WhatsApp but they still could text me. But then I'd unblock them and think, right, just in case they needed it. I still had in mind, I was like, just in case they needed me and stuff. Yeah, I haven't had them. But my husband still sees them and picks them up from school, which is absolutely fine. And that's how it should be. He has spoken to them about me coming back into and seeing them, and it seemed positive. And that was really, really, this was only yesterday that he actually had a chat with them and said, Claire misses you and all that kind of stuff, and we'd like to see you again. And they were both really quite up for it. So that's really promising. But again, we're not going to be forcing that. We're going to make it very natural.
What about you, though? Because everything that you're saying is really nice. And obviously it sounds like these girls have been hugely put in the middle by their mum. But what about your psychological safety at home? How do you really feel about seeing them?
Very nervous. Really, really nervous, in fact. Like, I have anxiety about seeing them. Again, it's the whole, what can I say that won't go back and be twisted? But then again, I'm like, I'm not here to do things how she wants to do it. Like, in my house, in my husband's house, this is how we are going to operate, and we always have. We've always had a really good, united direction of how our parenting would say with the girls, and it's always been the same with every single child. We've done exactly the same. Whether there's no difference, like, oh no, the boys can do that because they're boys, or because they're that side. Never. Bedtime was the same. Rules are the same. Chores are the same. Attitude, like their bad attitudes, will be reacted exactly the same by me and the husband. All that kind of stuff. But I have said that I'm really quite anxious, and I have upset myself in thinking, do I really want to see them? It would make my life a lot peacefuler and calmer if they just weren't involved. And I feel really bad for thinking about it sometimes, really bad. Or I think back in the days when I first met my husband, when he said he would give up being father to him, it was me that pushed him to say, no, you have to have a relationship with your kids. And then you think, I said, why did I push? Our lives would be so different. And like, why did I push? But they're fleeting kind of like things. And I kind of say to myself, yes, I can feel like that because it's not reality. And I'm not that kind of person. I'm not that kind of stepmom either. And I've always got the kids back. It's always what's best for them. And it breaks my heart that I don't have that relationship with kids on the girls' side. And they have been massively, massively affected by this whole ordeal. And that's always been my main concern. If me not being in their lives makes their lives a lot easier living with their mum, then that is what I have to do. Because whatever involvement, just messaging them, why are you texting my daughter when they're with me, or telling them what to do when they're with me? I'm their mother. If it makes their life a lot easier, that they don't get shouted at or even mentioning my name, gets a cold shoulder with them or just be treated really badly, then that's what I'll do.
I feel like everything you're saying about wanting the best for them is so true. But and I'm sure everybody listening as well, we want the best for you as well. So like, please, whatever you do, don't forget to put yourself in the mix, because you talked about kind of mental health earlier.
Yeah.
And you can't prop everyone up and be there for everyone else whilst other people are constantly pulling you down. So at some point you've got to look after yourself as well. You can still be nice to everyone else, but don't let yourself get trampled on.
Very true. I know we've gone for the whole thing, and yes, I do have to look after my mental health, and that from the split with my husband and stuff, it was a massive lesson, and I do put that in play because I'm an adult and I'm mentally more mature for me to handle it. But thinking of the kids, they're not. They've been involved in adult situations and discussions and arguments from a very young age, which has massively affected them. But through all of that, I do cling on to, there are lots of positives and amazing things that I've had experiences with my kids, and I will call them my kids because they are, in my eyes, they give me joy, they make me chuckle, they do like silly things, and they open up to me when they probably wouldn't open up to either my husband or whatever. And it's nice to feel inside your heart when you have that. And as much as it's shit at the minute, I know that I've put a positive stamp on their lives in some shape. And that is literally what I cling on to. And if anyone is thinking about getting involved and thinking about, oh no, I don't think I could. Everyone's experience is totally different, and it might not happen to you. You might get what I have with my husband's ex-wife, where it's really, really great. I have literally two halves.
Yeah.
So,
it's the Bio Mum Lottery.
Which one are you going to get?
There's a fun game no one wants to play. Look, It's been such a delight talking to you, Claire. Thank you so much for sharing, and hope you get to where you want to get to in everything. And perhaps you could come back in a few months and let us know how things are going.
Absolutely. I'd love to. Thank you for having me.
If you've just listened to Claire and thought, oh God, I felt that, I really want you to know you are not alone. Stepfamily life can be intense in ways most people just don't understand. And Stepmom Space is here for the parts you don't always say out loud. If you're looking for more support, head to stepmomspace.com and don't forget to follow the podcast in your app so these conversations are there when you need them and you get new episodes as soon as they drop. If you know another stepmom who would feel seen by this podcast, please do share it with her. We'll be back on Friday with another listener question and a brand new episode next Wednesday. Take care. See you next time.